was just thinking this morning, we actually started, as a community, we started doing our first gatherings about this time last year. So really since July. In July of 2014, we held our first official gathering. I can't remember where we did that. I think it was probably at Mel's, most likely. But really, ever since then, we've been doing what we've been doing here, is journeying through the Sermon on the Mount. Jesus teaching really his stump speech, as it were, as he went from town to town. Teaching, this was the kind of heart of his teaching, of what it meant to embrace the coming kingdom of the heavens, as he described it, to participate in the life of heaven as his disciple here and now. And for that reason, I want to just kind of revisit where we've been, just by reading kind of what we've already studied. And then we'll land on our passage for today in the Lord's Prayer. Jesus, he's been ministering to these crowds. In Matthew chapter 5, Matthew tells us that seeing the crowds, he went up on the mountain where he sat down. His disciples came to him. And he opened his mouth and he taught them, saying, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be satisfied. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall receive mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called sons of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when others revile and persecute you and utter all kinds of evil against you falsely on my account. Rejoice and be glad, for your reward is great in heaven, for so they persecuted the prophets who were before you. You're the salt of the earth. But if salt has lost its taste, how shall its saltiness be restored? It is no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled under people's feet. You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden, nor do people light a lamp and put it under a basket, but put on a stand, and it gives light to all in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father who is in heaven. Continuing in chapter 6, it says, "Beware of practicing your righteousness before other people in order to be seen by them, for you have no reward from your Father who is in heaven. Thus when you give to the needy, sound no trumpet before you, as the hypocrites do in the synagogues and the streets, that they may be praised by others. Truly I say to you, they have received their reward. But when you give to the needy, do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing, so that your giving may be in secret, and your Father who sees in secret will reward you." And finally it says, when you pray, you must not be like the hypocrites, for they love to stand and pray in the synagogues and street corners, that they may be seen by others. Truly I say to you, they have received their reward. But when you pray, go into your room and shut the door and pray to your Father who is in secret, and your Father who sees in secret will reward you. And when you pray, do not heap up empty phrases the Gentiles do, for they think that they'll be heard for their many words. Do not be like them, for your Father knows what you need before you ask him. Pray then like this: Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. And pray as we begin this morning. Lord Jesus, as we press into this word, as we wrestle with and learn what it means to truly ask you to be our provision, our supply, day by day. I pray, Lord God, that you would meet us there in that place, that you would minister to us, that you would provide our needs, and that you would introduce yourself to us in that way. Lord Jesus, thank you for your goodness and your supply. transform us as we come into your presence and your word this morning. In Jesus' name. Amen. And some of you may know, maybe you saw this on social media, maybe we chatted a while back, but a couple of weeks back, I actually took a brief foray into the restaurant world. Our friend Eric over at the Casting Grind, new coffee shop in town, he was kind of extending his service a little bit, and here at the Rochester Fairgrounds, this year is for the first time they're trying to bring in some outside events to kind of keep things going throughout the year, a little extra income, and a little extra activity for our city. The past weekend was the Phantom Gourmet kind of barbecue and country music festival. It was quite an affair. But Eric wanted to be a part of that. He kind of branched out and did some coffee service and things like that at that event. But the side effect was that he wouldn't be able to man his own store. And so he kind of said, well, you're here all the time, why don't you do it? And we kind of jokingly said I was a guest chef. My chef abilities go about as far as frying an egg and turning over an automatic waffle maker, but that's all I really need to do. And so I guest chefed over at the Casting Ground for a weekend. It was a great time, a lot of fun. I made some awesome waffles, and my daughters will attest to that. But one of the biggest challenges as a restaurateur, right? So now I can put that on my resume, right? Line cook, or I'll just call it a restaurateur. One of the biggest challenges is actually keeping fresh stock, isn't it? Like fresh food, because you have this menu that you want to keep stocked, and you want the ingredients to be fresh and taste the best they possibly can. But especially as a small operation, there's always this balancing line between kind of keeping a big enough menu with enough fresh items without accumulating tons of waste, right? So say you do something like a BLT, right? You need to have good fresh tomatoes. But if you sell like one BLT and you order a gross of tomatoes, there's a lot of waste there. On the other hand, if you buy that gross and you just kind of use it forever until it's actually gone, and that takes weeks and weeks, then your BLT is not going to taste very good. Okay, and so there's always this balancing act between kind of keeping the right things in stock, having an idea of what you're going to sell so you don't waste a ton, but your ingredients are also always fresh. But you see, that idea of freshness, it's only a window of time, right? It's a perishable commodity. The idea of kind of baked fresh this morning donuts, right? That has a certain appeal. Right, we love that idea of kind of fresh baked goods. So if we can say that, we can claim that there's a certain value to that. Saying baked fresh a week from last Tuesday doesn't have quite the same ring to it. Right? So freshness is this kind of window. It's this perishable thing. And the same thing is true of really all organic goods, all organic things. We're trapped on this journey, this irreversible journey toward decay, right? It's just entropy. Things lose their freshness. They came out of the dirt, it goes back to dirt. And somewhere in that line, you want to stop eating it, okay? But it's really actually true of all organic life, and not to be like creepy or weird about it, but the same is actually true for us too, right? In the life we presently live, it's actually a perishable commodity. It doesn't last forever. Our lives are really but a moment, a finite window of time, and really just a blip, hardly a blip on the timeline of the cosmos. And on all of our lives is this clock ticking irreversibly towards that day when our freshness date expires. Right? Some of us are closer to that date. I won't name any names. But of course, so that's the truth of biological, organic beings. That we're all on this journey toward eventual decay, and we spend the vast majority of our lives trying to ignore that fact, because it's kind of unhealthy to obsess about it. But we try to almost ignore it entirely, both culturally and personally speaking, but it's true. Life is a perishable commodity. And really, I think it's particularly true for us as a Western culture, the degree to which we can insulate ourselves from that fact. Because there was a time, and there are still cultures, where when a family member became old or sick, their final moments would actually be lived out on a bed or a couch or a cot right in the middle of family life. There was a time, and there are still cultures where this is true. Like there's just small children would play around the feet of the aged. I mean, babies would be born, meals would be served, life lessons would be learned, and the dying would be cared for, all in a proximity to one another that would feel very raw, and I think in many ways uncomfortable for most of us today. See, modernity and medicine have given us the luxury of really functionally outsourcing death. That when someone gets old or someone gets sick, we send them away. We send them to hospitals or homes or hospice care. By and large, our elders, our loved ones, they don't draw their final breath on a family couch. And most of us would consider that kind of an advancement. And that's not to say that these are entirely bad things. I mean, thanks to modern medicine, people are living longer, all right, which is wonderful, but it also makes long-term care more complex and often eventually a full-time job. And so there's advancement there, but the side effect of that is that death can become an abstraction. It becomes something that we can just not think about or ever come to grips with for the most part. I mean, my kids learn about death by burying a goldfish. Right? That's the closest we come, often as children. Not by finding a grandparent sleeping in the living room that had passed during the night. And again, most of us would think that's a good thing. But one way or another, the side effect of our insulation, our sterilization of death, is that you and I can choose to forget. We can actively choose to forget our own perishable nature. And we're insulated. And we can choose to ignore the basic fragility of our existence. We can pretend that life is something that we possess intrinsically and something we can hold on to indefinitely. We can pretend that rather than realizing that life is a moment-by-moment gift that it is. Jesus teaches his disciples to pray. He says, "Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread." Do you ever wonder why God teaches us to pray for sustenance and daily rations? Well, it's because our earthly life is both perishable and it's a gift. It's a gift. The truth is that we exist and we draw breath only at the pleasure of God. And the fact is that all we have, each and every one of us, is the moment at hand. Our past is beyond our reach. Our future is not guaranteed. So fragile and fleeting as we are, all we have is to be faithful with the moments and the seasons that we are given. With each new day, a privilege and an invitation. Give us this day our daily bread, Jesus says. See, this life we live is grace. It is a gift of grace that is given daily and received daily. Daily given, daily received. So we're going to look at this through a couple different lenses. And first, through that idea of this daily gift of grace, we're going to see that part of that dynamic is that within that is an implicit invitation to not simply receive the gift, but to know the giver. Okay. And then we're going to look a little deeper and look at what it means to actually honor the gift. And to do that, we're going to jump from Matthew back to Exodus chapter 16, because as Jesus invites his disciples to pray, "Give us this day our daily bread," what is coming to mind for them from their history was God's miraculous provision of bread and food for the people of Israel in the wilderness. So we're going to go there in Exodus chapter 16, the people of Israel. In Exodus chapter 16, Moses writes this. He says, "They set out from Elim And all the congregation of the people of Israel came to the wilderness of Sin, which is between Elim and Sinai, and on the 15th day of the second month after they had departed from the land of Egypt. And the whole congregation of the people of Israel grumbled against Moses and Aaron in the wilderness. And the people of Israel said to them, "Would that we had died by the hand of the Lord in the land of Egypt, when we sat by the meat pots and ate bread to the full. For you have brought us into this wilderness to kill this whole assembly with hunger." Let's pause there. Context. People of Israel have been enslaved in Egypt for 400 years. Okay, the burden was getting more and more burdensome, the oppression more and more significant. The people of Israel cry out, "God save us from this," and God does in a miraculous way, leads them through the Red Sea, into the wilderness towards the promised land. But it's amazing how, after a few days of camping in the wilderness, your perspective changes. Would that we had died in Egypt. We had plenty of food there. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Behold, I'm about to rain bread from heaven for you. And the people should go out and gather a day's portion every day, that I may test them, whether they will walk in my law or not. On the 6th day, when they prepare what they bring in, it will be twice as much as they gather daily, in preparation for the Sabbath." So Moses and Aaron said to the people of Israel, "At evening you shall know it was the Lord who brought you out of the land of Egypt. And in the morning you shall see the glory of the Lord, because he's heard your grumbling against the Lord. For what are we that you grumble against us?" And jumping down, it said, "The Lord said to Moses, I have heard the grumbling of the people of Israel. Say to them, at twilight you shall eat meat, in the morning you shall be filled with bread. Then you shall know that I am the Lord your God." So every morning, bread. Every evening, meat. Day in, day out, for 40 years in the desert. And I got to thinking about this, and I just started to wonder, you kind of imagine that God must have something better to do than play caterer. Like, with the infinite resources in the universe, you think you could outsource that stuff. Right? You think you could have found a way to outsource those responsibilities, but for 40 years of Israel's wandering, every meal was a miracle. Understand that. Every morning bread, every evening meat. For 40 years, every meal was a miracle. And why? We have to wonder, why did God choose such a hands-on approach for Israel's daily provision? When we look at the scripture, we take it seriously. We have to realize that God did this so that his people would come to know him. Right? He says, "You shall eat, at twilight you shall eat meat, in the morning you will be filled with bread. Then you shall know that I am the Lord your God." And so this is about more than a gift of bread. It was, in fact, in many ways, in a very real way, God's gift of himself to his people. To draw near, to express his sustaining and life-giving love and care in a very tangible, daily, even twice daily manner. And you have to understand that it was this nearness and the self-giving of God that was the real gift of grace. Because while in the context of this brief, fleeting biological life, those meals were important to keep them going for another day, it was only this nearness and embrace of God that could truly save them from perishing. And so as God hand-delivered every meal to the people of Israel for 40 years, the real gift wasn't the food, it was himself. You see. See, the gift is the point of contact, but to know the giver, that's the point. See, so much life is wasted because we fail to appreciate this one simple truth of our existence. And that is that the Creator is the reason for creation. You want to know what this life is all about? It's about him. By him, because of him, for him. When it comes down to it, you and I will have the pleasure of drawing breath on this planet for however many days we are given for no other reason than to know and be known by our Creator God, by the one who gives us breath. Everything else, every blessing, every struggle, every joy, pain, relationship, and experience is either given or allowed for the sole purpose of drawing us into the embrace of the Creator God. He is the very reason and fulfillment of our existence, made known and made possible for us through the victory of Jesus Christ. So it's about 10, 15 years ago now, The Purpose-Driven Life was published by Rick Warren. And I think last time I checked, it was like the best-selling book of all time, just under the Bible. Okay? And so why is that? Why is that? I mean, I like Rick. He's a good guy. He's not like my favorite teacher thinker. He's a little formulaic and canned sometimes. But yet, this book, literally, like best-selling book of all time after the Bible. Why is that? And I have to wonder if maybe it's just because it starts. It starts with probably the most important 4 words that you will ever do business with. Spiritually, psychologically, emotionally, and socially speaking. The first 4 words of the very first chapter of The Purpose-Driven Life, I think, define its success. He writes this: it's not about you. It's not about you. He says the purpose of your life is far greater than your own personal fulfillment, your peace of mind, or even your happiness. It's far greater than your family, your career, or even your wildest dreams and ambitions. If you want to know why you were placed on this planet, you must begin with God. You were born by His purpose and for His purpose. The search for purpose of life has puzzled people for thousands of years, and that's because we typically begin at the wrong starting point, ourselves. We ask self-centered questions like, what do I want to be? What should I do with my life? What are my goals, my ambitions, my dreams for the future? But focusing on ourselves will never reveal our life's purpose. The Bible says it is God who directs the lives of His creatures. Everyone's life is in His power. Contrary to what many popular books, movies, and seminars tell you, you won't discover your life's meaning by looking within yourself. You've probably tried that already. You didn't create yourself, so there's no way you can tell yourself what you were created for. He says, I once got lost in the mountains. When I stopped to ask directions to the campsite, I was told, well, you can't get there from here. You actually have to start on the other side of the mountain. In the same way, you can't arrive at your life's purpose by starting with a focus on yourself. You have to begin with God, your Creator. You exist only because God wills you exist. You are made by God and for God, and until you understand that, life will never make sense. It's only in God that we discover our origin, our identity, our meaning, our purpose, our significance, our destiny. Every other path leads to a dead end. Colossians chapter 1 puts it this way: For by Him, that is Jesus, all things were created in heaven and earth, visible and invisible, whether thrones or dominions or rulers or authorities. All things were created through Him and for Him. He is before all things, and in Him all things hold together. Which brings us back to daily bread, which again draws on Israel's memory of God's provision for them in their journey in the wilderness. Again, why manna, why quail every day, really twice a day, going out to gather God's provision twice a day? I mean, why can't He just deliver things in a week's ration or a month or whatever? I mean, why not just miraculously sustain them for 40 years without the need for food? Why not just make them so they're not hungry and just kind of beam down nutrients or whatever? Like, why all of this? The birds and this bread and twice a day. It just seems really inefficient. My wife will tell you I get annoyed at like multiple trips to the grocery store. Like me and my infinite wisdom, if I had the groceries, right? So you'd go once, you'd make a list of everything you need for an entire week. You go once and you never go again until the next Monday, and then you do it again. But like for early on in our marriage, we find like we go to the store and like, oh, I only bought a quarter pound of turkey, which is good for like one sandwich. And so then you need to go to the store the next day. And then of course you overcompensate by like a pound and a half of turkey, the half that goes bad, and so it's back and forth and all that. But I get really like multiple trips to the grocery store, and so this idea of God like hand delivering food 2 times a day for 40 years just seems super inefficient to me. So what's the point? Well, again, the point is this. It says you'll have meat and you'll have bread, and you're going to know that I'm the Lord. I'm going to know that I'm the Lord. You're going to know that I'm the Lord your God. And so again, the food is about more than food. The miracle is about more than manna. It's as if God like, literally designed the very rhythms, the necessity of meals, of food, of eating into our biology as a reminder of our dependence. As a reminder, in order to draw our eyes to the God upon whom we are dependent. Because the fact of the matter is we're pretty fragile. You know, apart from the consistent external nourishment, we just won't last very long. Our own strength can hardly hold up for more than a few hours before we need to fuel up again. Like, do you ever get the shakes? Like maybe you forgot to eat breakfast. Or sometimes, like I do a little bit of construction on the side. If I don't eat enough in the morning, I end up like roofing all day. So if I eat a yogurt at 6 a.m., and I try roofing all day, by the middle of the day, you're ready to fall off the roof, right? Like literally our bodies need energy. They need that external fuel to operate. And it's frustrating. It's frustrating to be so weak and dependent, but it's also fortunate. Because it's in our places of weakness that we're able to hear the invitation of God most clearly. And find ourselves pressed into trust in His strength. Jesus says, give us this day our daily bread. Here on earth, food is life, and our food comes to us by the hand of God daily, even hourly. Why? So that we might come to know Him. And in so doing, discover the gift of life that is not perishable. You see. Alan Hirsch tells this great story about a Japanese tourist who was touring the outback in Australia. Alan did a number of years in Australia in ministry. And this Japanese tourist was touring the outback with a rancher, who was a sheep rancher. And he noticed that there's sheep everywhere, but no fences. There's no fences to keep the sheep in. And the Japanese tourist asked, like, I see all these sheep but no fences. Like, how did they just get lost, like wander off? And the rancher explained that he said, we don't need fences, because again, this is a very desert, arid environment. He said, we don't need fences. I just dig a well, and the sheep don't wander very far. Like they're tied by the very nature of the necessity, by their dependence. They just don't wander off very far. You know, as good, strong-willed Americans, we tend to think of dependence as a limitation to our freedom, and we hate it. But God has actually wired dependence into the very fabric of our daily life, into our very biology, such that we may never stray too far from Him, the very source of life, so we can find true life. See, this is the life we live is a gift of grace, daily given, daily received. And within every prayer for daily bread, for provision, for sustenance, there is an inherent invitation to know, to love, to surrender to the embrace of the giver. To know the giver and find real life there. As we continue on in the story of Exodus chapter 16, Moses says, in the evening, quail came up and covered the camp. In the morning, dew lay around the camp. When the dew had gone up, there was on the face of the wilderness a fine, flake-like thing, fine as frost on the ground. And when the people of Israel saw it, they said to one another, what is it? For they did not know what it was. And Moses said to them, it is the bread the Lord has given you to eat. This is what the Lord has commanded. Gather on it, each of you, as much as ye can eat. You shall take each an omer according to the number of persons that you have in your tent. And they did so. They gathered some less, some more. But when they gathered with an omer, whoever gathered much had nothing left over, and whoever gathered little had no lack. Each of them had gathered as much as he could eat. And Moses said to them, "Let no one leave any of it over till the morning." But they did not listen to Moses. Some left part of it till the morning, and it bred worms and stank. And Moses was angry with them. Morning by morning they gathered, each as much as he could eat, but when the sun grew hot, it melted. So what does it look like to honor the gift? Within every gift, daily gift of life, there's an invitation to know the giver. What does it look like to honor that gift? Has anyone ever seen the TV show Doomsday Preppers? Or anything along those lines? And basically, it just documents these people that are really concerned about a future apocalyptic event, a cataclysm of sorts. So they dedicate their whole lives to being ready for that eventuality. And so some people that are really take it seriously. They live out in the desert. They build themselves this castle, basically, of shipping containers, right? That are welded together with a courtyard on the inside, and there's containers buried in the ground. And they have a 20-plus year supply of what they would call shelf-stable goods. So when it all hits the fan and everything goes under, the grid is they're going to be good for more than 20 years. And on top of that, because this is how they roll, there's arsenals, right, to protect the 20-year supply of shelf-stable goods, right? And so you have to wonder as you watch these people, it kind of makes for entertaining television, but what is at the heart of that lifestyle, that particular lifestyle? Yeah. I don't think it's just a fear of eventual starvation, though that's a part of it. We don't want to go hungry if things go wrong, right? But it's a fear of dependence. It's a fear of dependence. It is a fear that insufficient preparation for an eventual cataclysm is going to force them to join the begging, marauding bands of the unprepared masses, fighting over scraps of food in the streets, right? This zombie apocalypse stuff. And honestly, I can appreciate the sentiment, right? I don't enjoy feeling unprepared. I hate feeling helpless. I hate feeling dependent upon help from other people. And I'm going to be totally honest with you, this is a confession. That is why I will never buy anything but a four-wheel drive vehicle. Because in college, I had this little two-wheel drive Ford Ranger. It was a cute little truck, it was fun. But rear-wheel drive, right? And it snows in New England. I got stuck in so many parking lots on flat surfaces because of a little bump of ice. Until I finally said, enough! I got rid of it, I bought a four-wheel drive Ford Tacoma, and I've had four-wheel drive vehicles ever since because I hate that feeling of futility and needing to get out of my vehicle and be like, hey, you with the Jeep, could you help me out, please? So I hate feeling dependent on other people, so I get that, I understand it. And I'm all for being well prepared, but there's something in this spirit of hoarding preparation that stands against the life of trust that we are invited to in Jesus. It's like we're invited to pray, give us this day our daily bread. But if you can't get around to it, that's all right. I've got 20-year stockpile of freeze-dried beef stroganoff to tide me over, so I'm really good. So do what you can, but I'm really all set. Jesus tells a striking parable in Luke chapter 12. He says, the land of a rich man produced plentifully, and he thought to himself, what shall I do? For I have nowhere to store my crops. And he said, I'll do this. I will tear down my barns and build bigger ones, and I will store all my grain and my goods, and I will say to my soul, soul, you have ample goods laid up for many years. Relax, eat, drink, and be merry. But God said to him, fool, this night your soul is required of you, and the things you've prepared, whose will they be? So is the one who lays up treasure for himself and is not rich toward God. You see, in the desert, the manna comes in the morning, and then by mid-morning, the extra melts away. Everyone gets enough to feed their family for that day, and it's impossible to store leftovers overnight without it going rancid. Apart from the Sabbath, God actually provision says it's all going to be good. So you gather twice as much you need on the day before the Sabbath, and the Sabbath you don't need to gather. But in general, you can't store leftovers, it's going to go bad. And God established all of this so that the people of Israel would be literally forced to partake in the miracle of God's provision each and every day. It's like you couldn't just gather for a week and then not partake in the miracle. God says no. Every day, twice a day, you will receive this. You will partake in this. And whether they liked it or not, see, this was going to be a journey of trust. It was going to be a journey of trust. Jesus continues in Luke 12, and he said to his disciples, "Therefore I tell you, do not be anxious about your life, what you will eat, nor about your body, what you will put on. For life is more than food, and the body more than clothing. Consider the ravens, they neither sow nor reap. They have neither storehouses nor barn, yet God feeds them. Of how much more value are you than the birds? And which of you, by being anxious, can add a single hour to his span of life? If then you are not able to do as small a thing as that, why are you anxious about the rest? Consider the lilies, how they grow. They neither toil nor spin, yet I tell you, even Solomon in all his glory was not arrayed like one of these. But if God so clothes the grass, which is alive in the field today and tomorrow is thrown into the oven, how much more will he clothe you, O you of little faith? And do not seek what you are to eat, what you are to drink, nor be worried, for the nations of the world seek after these things, and your Father knows you need them. Instead, seek his kingdom, and these things will be added to you." You see, to honor the gift is to trust the giver. God's life and provision, it can't be hoarded, it can't be stockpiled, it has to be received daily. It's a lot like love, in fact. They need to be given and received every day. I can't shower my family with a week's worth of love and affection on Monday and then ignore them or harm them from Tuesday through Sunday and expect the math to work out. It just doesn't work that way. It has to be given each and every day anew. It's like the joke about the old Yankee who was being kind of chided for his emotional reservedness. He said, "Well, I told my wife I loved her when I married her, and I figure I'll let her know if anything changes." It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. You know, I can't do all my breathing in the first couple hours of the day and then take a while off. The world record, the absolute world record, and that is like huffing oxygen and lowering body temperature to like 40 degrees, is 22 minutes, which is exceptional. But when you think of 22 minutes out of 24 hours, like, it's still pretty amazing that how much we need air. And see, get this, their life is designed as a constant instinctual giving, receiving, just hardwired in the most basic elements of our biological, relational, social life selves. Life is this inescapable journey of trust, that is to say faith, in the one who created and sustains us. See, it's all a gift. It's a privilege, it's an invitation. The world does not owe me life. This life we live is a gift of grace, daily given, daily received. And so then the question is, how will we honor that gift today? Give us today our daily bread. We honor the gift of life and provision by receiving it as an invitation that it is to recognize and give thanks to and come to know our Creator God in a deeper way. We honor that gift of life by laying down the false idol of our own self-sufficiency and surrendering to the saving grace of Jesus, who is the one, only truly sufficient one. The one in the light of whom the Apostle Paul can say, "Listen, I rejoice in my weaknesses, because his grace is sufficient for me." We honor the gift of life today by learning what it means to trust that just as the grace and provision of God has met us today, so it will meet us tomorrow. because he is unceasingly faithful. And allowing that confidence to unleash in us a spirit of joy and peace and generosity, not hoarding or hiding the blessings of God's provision, but becoming vehicles through which that blessing can be poured out as a witness of God's grace to the whole world. My life is not my own, Paul tells us. I've been bought with a price. Every breath, every meal, every step is a gift, daily given, daily received. Until such a day as we shall meet the giver of every good gift face to face and find the true meaning of life in a whole new way. Give us this day our daily bread. Thanks be to God. Let's pray.